Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to take a look at some recent sales for a wide variety of items: mint on cards, mint in sealed box, vehicles, qualified vehicles, mini rigs, a pretty nice oddball assortment of stuff that sold. Mainly these items were from AFA/CIB. They obviously have kept us busy and kept our wallets empty with all the incredible items that they've had here lately. And some of them were good deals, some of them were really expensive, some of them were probably expensive because they were appropriately expensive. Some of them I couldn't figure out, like this Hoth Stormtrooper. I have no idea why this one was so expensive. And I just want to say thanks to those of you that watch my channel regularly. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Please like the video, as it does help out with growing the channel. So let's take a look. We're going to finish off with the CIB/AFA items, but this is one of my new favorite sellers, Gold Star Tech. They have a lot of Star Wars items that they list pretty regularly. I don't know if he's just selling off his collection or what, but I bought 2 baggies from this seller. They arrived bomb-proof packed, really, really nice. And they had some nice items here lately. One of them being a very tough to find transition card, Return of the Jedi 48 back for Darth Vader. Clear blister. This is the free 9-num offer, and it seems like this particular card back has really jumped in popularity. It's always been really popular, but the prices have really kind of taken that next level. We talked about a Yoda that was on this card back that AFA had probably 2 or 3 months ago that sold for just an astounding number. And this one is ungraded, but probably grades out as 75 at worst. It's got a little crease by the hang tab, but overall a very clean example. Probably a good chance at an 80 grade too. And it sold for $2,025, which is a big number for an ungraded mint on card. But it is one of the main characters. Very tough to find card back character combination. They're just not many of these. The Yoda, for example, that was on this card back, somebody told me that there was like 3 or 4 that have been graded by AFA on the population report. So it's just a very, very tough card back to find, for especially for the main characters, and you're going to pay a pretty penny for them. So that one did sell for $20.25. Same seller also had a green lightsaber Luke. This one was, I'm not sure which card back it was. Let's see here. It was a 77A back. So 77A Luke Skywalker, obviously yellow blister, but overall pretty good shape. I would guess this probably grades out about an 80. $255 on that one. And Luke Jedi is one on, especially on the 77 back, which is pretty common. That one has come back down to earth a little bit, even in fairly high grade like this one. So $255 for that one in an auction. Here's one that I think I talked about this in another video, but AFA had one for the Tri-Logo Ugnaught, but it had the larger PBP or Meccano style blister, and this one was ending like 20 minutes later. And so I put in my bid on the AFA/CIB example and lost, and I wasn't even close, and it sold for like $760. And I was traveling at the time, and so I forgot to activate my bid on this one. So this is one I'm still looking for. This is just the standard Palatoy blister that's smaller and square. Again, the AFA example had the long blister like the PBP or Meccano style blisters, long and thin, that don't match the size of the character. This one was graded AFA 80, and it sold for $381.90. The one I bid on sold for $760, and it was also, I believe, an AFA 80. So that's the way it goes sometimes. I certainly would have paid $381 for this one. I would have paid probably $450 for it, but I just forgot to activate my bid, unfortunately, and that's the way it goes. 80, 80, 85 on that one. So somebody got a good deal on that. I thought that was a very fair deal. I did bid on this one. I had my snipe set up for this one, and I still lost it. I think I bid $560. It sold for $570, so I finished second. This was an AFA 80 plus 9-num on the Tri-Logo card back, and the subgrades were 85, 80, 85. So I would have liked to have had that one as well, but I did finish second, unfortunately, and that was the story for the evening. I think I only won the Lobot, which is fine, but I wanted the 9-num as well, and I did not win. I probably should have been a little higher. 9-num, as I've talked about in past videos, It's kind of in the same category as Admiral Akbar in terms of difficulty finding it on the Tri-Logo. It's not like TIE Fighter Pilot or Emperor's Royal Guard or Death Star Droid. Those characters are even tougher to find. So this is kind of that third tier down. The first tier being like the Jawa, Boba Fett, General Madine. Obviously is in a tier by itself on the Tri-Logo card back. But this one is still a relatively tough one to find, and hence the price. But $570 I thought was very fair. I should have bid higher, but I just got distracted, man. When you're traveling, it's tough to keep your bids active when you're in the middle of restaurants and things like that. So next up was a mint and seal box C-3PO action figure carrying case. This one was graded AFA 80. That one sold for $676.66. So very nice example, and I think that's a very fair deal. You know, ungraded, you're taking a risk, right? You're taking a risk on the grade because it is really easy to ding up or crease that cardboard exterior covering. Just usually most of the ones you find that are ungraded, the cardboard is really creased up. So finding one that is grade worthy is really tough, and to get one that's already AFA 80 graded, you know, obviously you got the shipping to and from AFA for such a large item. $676 is probably about right to me. All right, on to the CIB items. Here was a qualified 85 twin pod cloud car. So this is not sealed, factory sealed, but it is unused contents. And it's an 85, and it sold for $710, which I thought was very fair relative to graded examples that are factory sealed, probably $1,000 to $1,200 pretty easily. So it is a pretty big discount for vehicles and the like when they are no longer sealed. And if you can live with a qualified designation on the AFA label, it's a little bit more budget friendly. Obviously, it's not going to be as desirable as a factory sealed example, but you know, these items are 40 plus years old. The factory tape yellows and dries out and things like that. So I don't think there's any harm at all if you want to collect vehicles to focus on qualified grades in high grade. It keeps the budget down, and you don't have to worry about 10 years after you buy it, the tape drying out and falling off and the grade no longer being applicable, and you paid a massive premium for it originally. So not a bad deal there. Some of the micro collection items, these were all factory sealed. AFA 80 for the Bespin control room. Really love the micro collection. I don't collect them just because of space, but I played with them a lot as a kid. I absolutely love them. $227.50 on that one. There was also the Bespin gantry action playset from the micro collection. That one sold for $330. That one was graded AFA 80. The Bespin freeze chamber is one of the coolest playsets, and I wish they had made this in 3 3/4 inch scale. Really shocking when you think about it that they didn't. They obviously had the, you know, the Bespin kind of cardboard backdrop version, but they didn't have a true playset with plastic and an elevator that takes the Han carbonite in and out, which I thought would have been an incredible playset from back in the day. But they didn't do it. They just made it on the micro collection scale, and that one did sell for $810. Tough to find that one in such a clean condition. Death Star Escape action playset. So that's another really cool item. That one sold for $610. And one of the harder ones to find is the X-Wing fighter from the micro collection, hence that final sales price of $1,009. This one, the TIE Fighter and the Millennium Falcon, are three of the rarest from the micro collection and do tend to command a massive premium. Very, very expensive relative to some of the other playsets from that line. On to the mint on cards that AFA had at auction. First is an AFA 75 65 back B TIE Fighter pilot. It was a yellowed designation, 75, 85, 85. I think I do have a 65 back B in a yellowed 85. My blister is a little bit more yellowed. That is an item I'm probably going to sell on Rogue 5 Toys here pretty soon, just because I'm running out of space. I'm getting a little bit tight on space, and I need to decide which items I want to keep and which ones I want to sell. And I've got a 77 back as well as a 65 back B TIE Fighter pilot, both of them yellowed blisters that are, I think, a CAS 80 and an AFA 85. So look for those on Rogue 5 Toys. I probably will be selling them in the next couple of weeks. But that one did sell for $305. That gives me at least a pretty good data point as to what mine is worth. I'm probably going to list it right around that same price point, even though mine is higher grade. Next up was a Palatoy double stem blister Admiral Akbar. This one was a yellow designation, AFA 85. There's something about those double stem blisters that I absolutely love. I just picked up one for Dengar on the 40-something C ESB card back. I think it's an ESB. It might be a Return of the Jedi. I don't remember which one it is. I think it's a 48 back C, something like that. But this one was the 65 back B, double stem blister, as it's labeled there by AFA. Yellow designation, AFA 85. $305 on that one. I thought that was a very good price and worth every penny. Here's the one I'm still confused about. It was a yellow designation for a 77 back A Hoth Stormtrooper. Now, it does say hard torso, but the hard torso Hoth Stormtrooper is not particularly rare. It was AFA 75, so it's not even that high of a grade, and one of the subgrades was a 70. The card score was a 70, blister 80, figure 80. And it was unpunched, no price sticker. It certainly presents very nicely, okay? I don't know why it got the yellow designation. To me, it looks like a clear blister, but it sold for $12.75. I have no idea why. The only thing I can think of is that somebody looked it up on the population report on AFA's website, and because it does have the hard torso designation, that it potentially has fewer number on the population report. But again, it's not a rare figure variation, okay? And, you know, to each their own, all right? I'm not trying to crap on the person who bought it, but that is a massive number for what I would consider to be, I mean, it's really nice, okay? And, you know, the outer blister does look clear to me. Maybe a faint yellowing to it. There is you know, the little piece of plastic that is inside the blister that keeps the vinyl cape from sticking to the cardboard is yellowed. And maybe that's enough to give it the yellow designation despite a clear blister. And so maybe people valued this on a clear blister type of thing. So it had a figure score of 80, but if you look at the figure, even the figure itself is got some weird stuff going on. It's got two little black dots on the leg there, on the foot, on the tip of the foot, as well as on the knee. So there's yellowing to the limbs relative to the torso. So there's lots of weird stuff going on, enough that I would think this would be like a $400 to $500 item max. $12.75 makes 0 sense to me. Maybe somebody who's a little more intelligent than me can fill me in as to why that one sold for so much. I don't care what the population report says. I don't care if this is a 1 of 1. To me, that's an insane number and not a price I would even come close to touching. Here was a beauty. This was an AFA 85 plus Palatoy Snowspeeder mint and sealed box, so still factory sealed. I was made aware by the person that bought this that this is the highest graded example on the population report. It did sell for $2,901, and you know, it's a beauty. It's a Palatoy, and let me see if we can find the label on it. There it is, the label, Return of the Jedi, Palatoy / Meccano, so by logo is what I would call it, 85 plus. Really incredible item, and again, it's one of it is the highest graded example on the population report. I'm not going to make any kind of determination on value because I have no way to value something like this. And he's happy he bought it for this price. I'm happy for him, and that's all it boils down to. If you got the money and you want to have the highest graded example on the population report, you now got it at $29,0177. Here was a collector series land speeder. Again, this was qualified AFA 80 plus. Not sure why this one sold so high. This one sold for $15.05. Here is the label on it, AFA 80 plus qualified. And again, I have no idea why this one sold for as much as it did, because you can buy one in this kind of condition for, I would say, $300, $350 max, maybe $400 on the very top end. It also got an 80 plus despite that huge tear at the very top of the box. So I think it's overgraded. I think this is a drastic overpay. I would consider this to be like a $600 item max. 1505 makes absolutely zero sense. Now, if this was the long play logo, the original issue land speeder in a qualified 80 plus, maybe you could make the argument that 1505 is a fair number, but not for the collector series. This is like the reissue version that came out in 1983. So your guess is as good as mine as to why that one sold for 1505. Ewok Combat Glider, this one was an AFA 80, mint in seal box, $280. Again, a very fair number. I've seen them go for that price, mint in seal box, ungraded, so $280 was very fair. Vehicle Maintenance Energizer on the Return of the Jedi packaging, that one sold for $1,025. Why? What on earth makes this one go for $1,000? So there's just weird things that happen with CIB auctions, okay? It attracts whales that are willing to look on eBay. Most whales don't spend any time on eBay, all right? But there are some that do, and I think in this current environment where if you go to Heritage, prices can be out the wazoo. On, Hakes, there's items, obviously, and there's good deals and bad deals. But I think if you're a big-time collector with deep pockets, I guess more people are starting to look on eBay. Especially lately with AFA/CIB, it's a trusted seller. You're going to get the item fair and square. It's not a scam. But, we're talking like 3 times market value on this, right? An AFA 80 Vehicle Maintenance Energizer on the Return of the Jedi packaging is not rare. You can find one of these for $150 to $200 ungraded and grade it yourself. It's absolute insanity what that one went for. No idea why. Here's the tripod laser cannon. This one went closer to market value. This one was an AFA 80. It sold for $305. I would even argue that's still a little high. $250, $275 max on that one. These are not Empire Strikes Back packaging. These are the later Return of the Jedi versions. The Tri-Logo Indoor Forest Ranger, 2 different examples sold. And this shows you how pricey this one is. This one has always been fairly pricey. The AFA 75 Plus sold for $621, which is a big number. But I've seen these ungraded go for $400 plus, so I could see that. The AFA 85 was an insane number. And again, this one was not a Tri-Logo. This was just the standard US version. That one sold for $1,025. So, people are putting in nuclear bids. And if 2 different people put in nuclear bids at the same time, somebody got out nucleared. All right. So this is like, we need to have we need to go back to the Cold War era where it was mutual deterrence between the U.S. and Russia. Both sides knew that they had nuclear weapons, but neither one of them fired. And in these auctions, both people were firing. Okay. So, hold back, on your nuclear bids. There's no way that I'm going to put in nuclear bids in a CIB auction. There's just no way, because there's always going to be somebody out there doing it based on some of these sales prices. And now, again, I don't know the Indoor Forest Ranger enough to make an educated judgment, but my gut tells me this is way too high at $1025. Here was a CAS qualified 50 for the Lily Letty version of the Millennium Falcon. And this one is El Regreso del Jedi. So this was for the Mexican market. You can see the Lily Letty logo in the lower right-hand corner. Very rare item. Very, very rare item. And it was a CAS 50 qualified. So, again, it's unused contents. And it's a pretty cool item. It didn't sell for nearly what I would have guessed it to sell for. Maybe people are just not willing to pay that kind of money for it. But to me, that seems like a pretty good buy at $17.27. I see them sell for $1,500-ish ungraded, and you don't know what you're getting when you get one ungraded. It's unused. To get the qualified designation is very difficult to do. And, it's got great line art on the back of it. You can see the line art on the back. That's just really, really awesome item. So congrats on that one. $1727.99 was the final sales price. Chewbacca's bandolier strap. This was a qualified 80 plus. That one sold for $357. Again, a very nice item. It looks to be appropriately graded. I don't know if it's worth $357, but I've seen them sell for $250-ish, mint and sealed box. It's just tough to find this one without a fold on the flap, because that flap is so massive. And man, that kid is just... This kid looks a lot like me growing up. He's actually in better shape than I was, but It's cool. I mean, it's a cool item. I don't know if I'd pay that much for it. Next up is the Droids Green Lightsaber. Again, this was a qualified designation, AFA 80. We just talked about the red and the green that were mint in sealed box that AFA had listed, and it was an 80 or 85, and they sold for 2.5 times this price. So again, going back to my comment about I love to collect this stuff. I have the space for it. You know, this is a good option if you are willing to live with a qualified designation, and you don't have to worry about that tape drying out because it's already been qualified designated. So anyway, $333 seems like a really good deal relative to the mint and sealed box examples that sold a couple of months ago for $800, $900, somewhere in that ballpark. That's all I really had for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.